Hello, and welcome to the Psychic Wave Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Sanishin, and on this episode, we had Sasha, aka Sashabosha. I first noticed Sasha's Instagram account, which is Sashabosha, where she was performing a cover of a song that I really enjoyed, and so I asked her to come on the podcast. And she came down, and we had some beers. We talked about a lot of stuff. Mostly we talked about, I think, just the human experience is what you would call it. But it was a really fun podcast for me because she had a lot of different insights. Her family has gone through a lot of interesting changes that I have definitely never experienced, and I don't know how many have, but she has a really interesting story, and she was very honest about her childhood and upbringing and how it shaped her into what she is today. And she's very candid about the fact that it's always a journey and that, you know, there's always something to work on. But she was extremely honest and open, and I think that always makes for a really great podcast. And I am unbelievably thankful that she came down, and I think you guys will enjoy the podcast as well. So yeah, thanks, Sasha. But what else has been going on, huh? What's been going on? I don't fucking know. I never know. All I know is that the other day I went to Alex's bar with my buddy Nani. I was in town. I was in Long Beach doing band practice with my band, and I hit him up and I said, "Hey, I'm in your town. What you doing?" So he called me up, and he very graciously picked up some beers, and we went over to his studio and turned on the mics because he has a wonderful podcast as well. Bundy the Podcast. You should check that out. And he turned on the mics, and we just hung out like we normally do. We just talked like we normally do. But it's always really fun hanging with Nani. He's always got a mission, you know? There's always something going on, and I mean that in a good way. He's always looking for just some sort of excitement in life, and I think that's a really good mentality, and it works for him as well. He's a very good host. You would love his podcast. You should go check that out. And then after that, we went down to Alex's bar, which was literally right down the street. And I noticed that was the place where they filmed Pick of Destiny, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, which is I think that's a fucking funny movie. It's hit or miss with people. Some people really hate it, but I think it's a super funny movie. That was like one of my favorites in junior high. I don't know. But anyway, we went in there and saw the band New American play. They'd been on the podcast as well. And they were super good. It was my first time seeing them play, and I'm really excited that I finally got to see them, and that I got to see them with Nani and Nani's girlfriend Rachel. That was a lot of fun. But, you know, I was on one of those binges where I wasn't treating my body that well. I wasn't listening to my body and what it needed. And what it needed was some fucking sleep and probably some water. And I got uncomfortable, and I just had that uneasy anxiety feeling that seems to be looming over me whenever I don't eat right, get enough sleep, or exercise frequently. So, yeah, my body was kind of done, and once New American finished playing, said bye to all my friends, and went home and tried to get some fucking sleep. Because I've been pushing, and I've had a cold, too, that probably added to it. And there's some other factors that you don't need to know, but you can probably guess. And it just added to the stress level. So, you know, I was trying to get some sleep, and I eventually did. So that was Sunday night. And then on Monday night, which was last night, I had a wonderful podcast that kind of opened me up again and made me excited for life. Not that I lost the excitement for life, but whenever you have a really good conversation with somebody, it's kind of like therapy. I don't know, you work out some ideas and just, it feels really good. You should try to have a long conversation with somebody as often as you can. But without further ado, this is Sasha, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Thanks so much. it's hard too because like people refer to people in the food industry as servers, and it's so close to the word servant. You know what I mean?
Very true.
And so I think people in general just treat people shitty. Not that that's okay, but
if you think of like the restaurant industry, how many times do you go out to eat a week?
Every day.
And then when you get that bad service, how much does it affect you? Depends on who you are, right?
When I have bad service and I eat out a lot, it's not even like bad quality food. It's busy and it takes a while. But I think I go into it a lot thinking, holy shit, I'm getting food brought to me. Like, am I really going to be that picky?
Yeah.
And I've had the pendulum of really, really good food and then really, really shitty food that's also tasted awesome. So it's like, I'm pretty happy as long as I'm getting fed.
Yeah.
But
it's like first world problems.
Yeah. What was this old guy like that was giving you shit?
When he was telling me all these details about his order, even though I was like writing it down, I was really looking at him and wondering what made him this way.
What do you mean? Like so particular?
I don't know. I was staring at his hands and I was just like looking at his age and being like, okay, maybe he's alone. Maybe he doesn't have a loved one at home.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, you don't know what goes on in people's lives, and sometimes they project their own feelings onto you,
mm-hmm.
and maybe it's negative, and maybe you perceive, oh, they're being mean to me, but really it's just a projection of their own reality. So that's the way I kind of looked at it today, and it kind of made me not so angry about it because I just kind of accepted it.
Right. It's not a personal thing anymore. It's like it's on him.
Yeah, and I kind of slowly walked away. He was complaining to me about slow internet and how he's not going to come in anymore because it's so slow. And I said, oh, sorry, sir, it's out of my hands. And he's like, no, you need to take it into your hands. And like, I slowly started to walk away. And the last thing I said is, I understand. And I walked away.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I'm not going to sit here when I have other things to do and take, just like your emotions. It's just.
Yeah, it's hard too because there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable with knowing that you understand the problem and that we're in mutual agreement that it sucks and that's just life. But they're like, no, fix it. It's like, well, maybe you should fix it. Maybe go to a place with faster internet if you're so upset.
Yeah.
That would literally fix your problem.
There's a coffee bean right there. Like, great internet, you know.
You should just recommend like other places to people. Just be like, please don't come here again. Yeah. Well, thanks for making the drive down.
Of course.
It's surprising to me when people drive more than 10 minutes to get here. So I really appreciate it. And I don't know, I think maybe through the Y Dogs Y account. Do you follow Y Dogs Y?
Maybe.
Somebody's account. I came across your account somehow, and I was going through your feed and I saw you do a cover of an Always song, and I love that song, and it sounded great. And then I looked at the rest of your stuff, and you seemed creative and fun. So I said, hey, you want to come on the podcast?
And I was like, sure, not sure why, but okay.
For that reason. Yeah. I like talking with creative people. And you seem creative. And also, you are into like yoga and stuff, and just kind of like personal mindfulness. And I'm kind of into that. I just am so lazy that I can't create repetitive good habits. It's hard for me to do that. So having somebody on the podcast that is at least appears through Instagram to be good at that.
Okay, so here's what I have to say about that. That is really my goal. Like, if I could live my life a certain way, I'd wake up before my day started and have a morning routine where I set an intention for my day and just have a routine. But I actually struggle with the opposite. I've been really realizing a lot about my habits recently. And instead of, I've always looked at my habits that I didn't like about myself with negativity and, I don't like this about myself. Why? And, you know, just looking at it negatively.
Mm-hmm.
But recently I'm like, okay, I just accept these things about myself. Now what am I going to do about it?
Right.
And certain weeks are easier than other weeks, you know?
Do you feel, because I've felt that way before, and a feeling that I get a lot is if I fully accept that that's the way I am and then try to move on from there, that I'm probably not going to put in the same amount of effort as if I didn't accept it and I worked really hard to make myself different.
I think that's different than being negative about it. I think core thing was like I had a lot of negative self-talk, and I still kind of do. It's just something I struggle with. I've had a really unstable life, and still to this day, like I just moved into a place with a roommate, and she decided to move out a month after, and now I have to, my sister's moving in, and it's like money and, you know, just instability. And I think like every time I'm about to like take off, it's like something else hits me, and it's coping with like what life gives you, but remaining on your routine, no matter what. So I guess like I'm just slowly getting there. I just don't know why I feel like it's taking so long for me.
I think that's just always the feeling until you hit like a stride. But I think sometimes when we're in a stride, we don't notice it too, which is really hard. But I suffer from the same thing, a lot of like negative thoughts. Like I straight up had a panic attack yesterday, like around my friends, and I had to like walk outside. I thought I got like dosed with LSD or something because I left my beer like sitting out unattended, and then I realized it was just in my head. But then when I analyzed everything, I realized I hadn't been sleeping. I've been filling my body with junk food. And I hadn't been exercising either. But when I exercise, I eat right, and I sleep well, I feel like a god.
That's so funny you say that. I listened on a podcast recently. There are 3 things that you need to have a healthy body: exercise, sleeping habits, and eating habits. And those are the 3 things I can't get a hold of.
It's like it's super
even though
simple.
It's so simple. Yeah. It's so simple. Because you know why? Oh, someone hits me up at 8 o'clock. I stay out till midnight. I have work at 8 a.m. the next day. This like grind that I was so into when I was like 21. Yeah, like I'm starting to get over that. And I really want to like start building my life.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been having so much fun that I've let go of like the important things. So if you think of creativity and like being spontaneous and, you know, being intuitive and going out and floating in the clouds kind of mentality you were saying earlier, what's the opposite? Logic, right?
Right.
But logic is also kind of grouped with stability and routine and math. Yeah. Right? So like having the balance between the two is really important.
Yeah. See, so, that's what I'm struggling with is the balance, because I'm, in a technical sense, doing better than I've ever done before. And I feel that emotionally as well.
Yeah, same.
But I found a way recently to like make money doing the stuff that I love to do, which is like super hard. And I never thought I'd be able to do that. But that entails going out late, seeing bands. My friends are in bands. I'm in a band. And that has given me lots of happiness. But it's late nights, junk food.
It's
being
draining
around
sometimes.
Like the rock and roll lifestyle is pretty negative at times. And so I'm like, how do I balance that out with health? How do I be a healthy rock and roll dude so I can keep this up? Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think that really, to the bottom line, like, breaks down to what's your relationship with yourself and your boundaries.
That's the thing, is I'm really into experimenting and trying new things. So my boundaries are always changing. Yeah. My core values stay pretty much the same. If I was to analyze, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I felt the same way about the important stuff. But as I get more open, my rules change for myself.
I think that's important too, just like being open.
Yeah.
To anything. And also, like, I've noticed that, like, this might sound kind of negative, but I don't mean it in that way. But moving to California, I was telling her earlier that I've lived here for 5 years. California is amazing. Well, I've lived in Arizona for 5 years before California. I lived in Virginia from age 5 to like 13.
Oh, wow.
But I was born in the Middle East.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I've kind of seen like so many different towns and people, but...
Well, sorry, real quick. What were your parents doing in the Middle East?
So my dad's Jordanian. My mom was actually born and raised in England. It's kind of crazy how they met. It's like a long, crazy story, but my mom ended up marrying my dad, living in the Middle East, having 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like crazy. And
getting busy.
Moved to Virginia. I grew up Muslim, so my dad was really strict and like kept us inside a lot, didn't really want us to be Americanized.
So what was the move to America about?
His business. He wanted to start a business and make money.
Yeah.
So he was a taxi driver and he owned a taxi business in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And he made good money, but he was like very culturally strict.
Yeah.
Even though we were Muslim, he never really practiced Islam. It was more like just cultural oppression of women kind of thing. So then my mom started to, I want my daughters to go to school.
Yeah.
I want my daughters to get a career. Mm-hmm. But then my dad was like, okay, let's, no, you don't get to do that. They're going to go back to the Middle East, they're going to get married, and they're going to have kids, and I pick their husbands.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
So my mom really made a big decision, and she just left.
Oh, okay.
And,
well, I mean, I know that must have been tough, but based on my own beliefs, kudos to your mom, man.
Yeah.
And so do you have any contact with your dad?
Not since then.
Do you feel strongly about your dad in any way?
No, but it's been so long since I've spoken to him, and the reasons we stopped talking to him were so uneasy that I asked my mom recently, hey, can I write him a letter? Mm-hmm. And she got really upset because out of all of us, like, she got the most anger from him. Yeah. So she has the most resentment. Yeah. So, like, I really do want to get in contact with my dad before he passes away at least. Or, hey, this is me. Yeah. Anonymously if I'm still, like, which I doubt. But, my dad was just a product of his environment.
Right. I was going to ask you that if you blame him for thinking that way.
I did because of the pain. Yeah. But once I let it go, I realized, like, if it wasn't for... I literally looked in the mirror today and I saw my Arab side. And I said, you know what? If it wasn't for my dad, I would not be here. I see both. After you, like, said where your mom and dad are from, I'm like, I can see it. But I feel the same way about my biological father. My stepdad's been my dad since I was, like, 1. But my biological father was just... He couldn't grow up. He was like a kid. And he had a drug problem and a drinking problem. And he never did anything directly to me, but I know he made my mom's life really hard. And him passing away from drunk driving, fucked me up for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I, like, blamed him for a while, but now I'm just like, I don't think the dude would have chosen that. Like, if he knew, so it wasn't really his fault. It was just the way he was. Yeah. So... But at the same time, you're like, you just wish they would see the big picture. It's funny that you say that because I feel like I was just talking to my boyfriend today. I said, as a society, like, we have so many issues because everyone's thinking for themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay. How many, like, as a whole, do we have a group, a group goal? As America, do we have a goal?
I think it really is sell shit, make money. Like, that's, if I'm going to dumb it down, most Americans want to just have a successful business.
But what I mean by goal is, like, on an ethical level, do we have a goal in which we want to progress to? Are we in unity? No.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're in unity, but we're a huge fucking country. Yeah. Like, all of Europe can fit into, like, the 3 left or most Western states in, all of Western Europe can fit into, like, California and up to Texas probably. So it's a big it's a big country, and so I think that geographically culturally we're so different from
we really are.
People in New York.
I've experienced that firsthand.
I'm sure you have. Yeah. So Virginia and Arizona.
And like a tiny town in Arizona, not even the city.
What do you mean tiny town?
Like Coolidge, Arizona. If you look it up, small town. Like it's this is Phoenix, this is Tucson. It's right in the middle.
What's the town like? Like when you say small town, I'm thinking like dirt roads. And I know
there's
really?
some dirt roads.
Oh, okay.
Well, not all the roads, but like certain I used to take a dirt road sometimes. But a lot of farming. They did struggle, like that county in particular struggled with like addiction and teen pregnancy.
Lots of meth.
Yeah. Heat, poverty.
Yeah.
The schools were, I didn't notice how bad my school was until I moved to Laverne.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That contrast was just shocking to me.
Why did you go to Arizona?
So when my mom and dad divorced, my mom wanted to leave Virginia in totality because my dad.
Yeah, makes sense.
So California was where her cousins lived, but at the time it was too expensive. So we literally she just had a feeling go to Arizona. Yeah. And then she worked there for a couple of years, was really, really unhappy, hated her job, worked night shifts, had 7 kids, tried to support them. So finally she's like...
all of your siblings came with you. And
7.
Was it easy for your mom to get custody of you guys?
Yes, because she had a lot of like evidence against my dad and whatever.
We don't have to get into that.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I know somebody who has a kind of oppressive father who's super fighting for their custody, and he's like got a lot of money, and he's like being pretty ruthless to the mother of his children.
Yeah.
So it's surprising to me that your mom was able to take the kids, but she had some goods on him and took the kids to Arizona.
Yeah, really I feel like if it wasn't for that decision in my life, like I'd be in the Middle East right now.
Married to some dude.
Yeah, and
popping
I wouldn't
out kids.
have this free like I couldn't wear shorts and I was 13, 12. Like I couldn't wear capris around my cousins. They'd be like, "Put some pants on, you're showing your ankles."
Really? It's so funny that you said your dad didn't really practice Islam, but
yeah, because he had a really messed up childhood and he's just like controlling. And
what was his childhood like?
His dad passed away when he was a kid, so his mom was a widow and they grew up in a village in Jordan where they didn't have a lot of money, lived off a farm, ran around with no shoes, and just the culture there was so okay. So the part of Jordan he's from is like the village. So if you think of a city, cities are more progressive than tiny little towns, right?
Yes, right?
So think about the Middle East. If the Middle East is already pretty, like, strict on certain things, like, if you go to the village, it's like a whole new culture. It's like a more extreme, more compact, more,
integrated tribal
very
thinking.
Tribal. Actually, my ancestors were Bedouins. So they were desert dwellers.
Desert dwellers.
So they lived... Have you ever seen in the Middle East people walking with camels in the desert? And they live... traveling because they travel for food and water.
Right.
I took a DNA test, and from my father's side, there were ancestors traced back to South Europe, so Italy and Spain, and they must have moved down to the Middle East. And then I have another lineage that roots back to North Africa, so Morocco.
Well, where was where's the spice road? The spice trade, because people would travel.
I think it was Morocco all the way up to the Middle East. If
I'm
correct. I'm not sure.
It's funny because if you look back, there's like certain patches in the Middle East, Africa, South Europe, where like there's an abundance of food, spices, trade, and people would just travel, like their whole lives and go place to place just to survive, to do that. So whole thing. That's super crazy. Yeah, my family is so Americanized that it's not even like interesting at all.
But I don't think your family life has to be interesting to be an interesting person.
Well, here's right. I agree, but with your family, you can trace evolution of way of thinking and my family has been thinking the same way for way too fucking long. And they're like, they're kind of super racist, and they don't even like know it. And they think that it's okay because they've been in a echo chamber of people just saying nothing.
But that's where you come in.
I start a lot of fights with my family.
But that's where you come in, because you pass down the same DNA, but in an altered version, because your environment shapes your genes. So your genes are turned on and off based off of environmental factors. And I think that your thoughts can change your DNA. So, for example, negative thinking makes you sick.
Yeah, no, I feel that,
right?
Man.
So your genes are shifted.
Will shut you down.
Stress will bring out certain negative parts of genes, whereas taking care of your body and taking care of your mind, when you raise your kid, they're going to be, if you raise your kid to love everybody, that racism that was in your family is eventually going to shift because of you. So it's a ripple effect.
Yeah, I definitely, when somebody says something to my little cousins, I have a 10-year-old little cousin, a boy, a 9-year-old little cousin, two 10-year-olds that are boys, a 9-year-old boy, and then a 2 or 3-year-old little girl. And I'll kind of push the boundaries, but I'll like test their thinking, And I don't like tell them Santa Claus isn't real, stuff like that, but I'll like do thought exercises with them, and I'll be like, how can he fit down a chimney? How can he get to every kid, stuff like that, where I'm trying to like get them to think freely and not just automatically think what every adult tells them is true. And when my uncle like says something slightly racist, I'll be like, whoa, dude. That's not cool. And then I'll tell my little cousins in front of my uncle, like, he should not be saying that. That's not nice. They'll repeat things and they'll think it's fine. And it's just, I don't know. But my point was not that it's cool that your family had such a interesting lineage, but more that I would take pride in it if I were you, especially your mother's decision to move on from something like that. I can barely stop eating bacon avocado cheeseburgers, and your mom made like a huge decision and moved 7 fucking kids
and raised them
didn't just move them.
Well, the thing is about me is I think you made a comment earlier. You said I suppress my emotions or experiences as they happen, right? I do the same thing.
That was a slight joke, but yeah.
But I actually do that unconsciously, even sometimes good ones. And recently, I don't know why, I'll be like driving and I'll randomly have this memory that is so random. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Wow. I went, it's just, I don't know how it just somehow manifests in my brain. And I'm like, what the heck? Like,
something happened with Tess and I recently where she's like, you don't remember that? And I have like a great memory. And it wasn't like, no, that wasn't it. And it wasn't something like we were getting fucked up and I didn't remember something. It was literally like just a normal day that I don't remember at all. And I wonder if something like bad happened to me that day that I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
and my mind's
sometimes
like,
I think that too. Like, I don't know, but at the same time, like I was telling my little brother earlier, I was like, the past, it doesn't exist. I mean, in our brain it does, but what really exists all the time is right now. Right. And when you start to think that way, it automatically starts to pull you into the moment. And when I say this, like, I have to admit there were times in my life other than now where I was actually more in tune and more spiritual. And recently, like, I've really been yearning for that old me. But I'm realizing, this is like sometimes you take 1 step forward and 2 step backs, but for the right reasons. And sometimes we might not understand why we fell off the path. But sometimes when we come back onto the path, it's like stronger and you have more reasons. And
I've been feeling that a lot lately. I think that, to use an example, to be a great musician, you have to have a lot of things going on in your life. You can't just play guitar in your room by yourself all day.
You need inspiration.
You've got to go out and make friends. You've got to go have some heartbreak. You've got to jump off of a roof and break your leg. I don't know, just like do things. And I think experiencing other things makes you better at everything. I think it just adds to your mental collection of thoughts and patterns. And I think we're always noticing patterns even when we don't realize we are.
Yeah,
and that makes you better.
Because if you think of the opposite of what you just said, what is it? Stagnancy.
Yeah.
Same.
That has killed me.
Which is so easy in this day-to-day routine, 9 to 5 lifestyle. It's so, like, I personally like would die to have a 9 to 5 job where someone told me what to do every single day and how to live my life, and clock in, clock out, paid vacation, a week out of the whole year.
Yeah.
Like I totally think that would be cool for someone that had a different personality other than mine.
Right.
Like, I don't bash on it. Like, go you, do your thing. You can be happy doing whatever. But personally, I'm like, I need to move. I need change because I've had so much change in my life.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been a constant in your life anyway.
It's like
you're brought up on change.
Dreadful when I'm more than 2 years in the same job. Because I just get in this box, you know?
How are you with relationships?
Do
you have you had long-term relationships?
Yeah, I'm with a guy now that we've been together for a year. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of this relationship where it's like growing. You know? Right before I met him, I'm not kidding. Right before, I was in a really bad relationship last year with an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And leaving him and finding Nate was almost such a big shift for me that I was really hesitant in getting into another relationship. Mm-hmm. But the contrast between the two guys is like heaven and hell. Yeah. Like, not to bash my ex, but he really tore down my self-esteem without me even knowing. Like, coming out of the relationship, I've never felt so bad about myself. And it took me a while to realize that whole relationship was a lesson for me. But I need time to heal and to kind of realize that all those feelings that he gave me about myself weren't true. So this new relationship for me is really just like learning that what love really is. Right. To have a friendship, because this relationship is like the biggest friendship I've ever had in my life.
Those are the best relationships.
And, you know, like, our relationship is so about just like being best friends that, like, sometimes I forget he's my boyfriend. I know that sounds weird. I'm like, oh yeah. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Those are the best. Those are the best. Listening to what you were saying, I was thinking, do you maybe think that it was, although a hard change, easier for you to break up and move on with your ex because you had a role model like your mom who noticed negative things and was able to do that for herself?
You know,
or when you're in it, is it still super hard?
So no one ever told me leave him, but I never brought him around my friends, and I never brought him around my family, because deep down, even though I tried to hide it, I wasn't proud of him. Well, I was embarrassed about him.
What type of alcoholic? Like, what are we talking?
When I met him, like 12 beers a day.
12 beers a day.
And then he cut it down to 6 a day when I was like...
I mean...
Which, you know what? But it wasn't like just the alcoholism.
Back to back.
Like there's certain mornings, like, I'd wake up to him cracking a beer. Oh, yeah. And just like never cuddling with me in the mornings. Always about him. Very narcissistic. He was
self-medicating.
He was very narcissistic too. But I didn't see the signs. Like,
well, that's a... Narcissists self-medicate a lot because they love themselves, but they feel guilt because they know that they have an issue, and so they self-medicate because who's better to make yourself better than you? And so they just keep drinking and making themselves feel good through basically a poison, and they don't have time to love anybody else. I have a friend who just got out of a relationship that was like on and off for like way too long, and he was a narcissist, totally, and he would just break her down all the time and make her feel like everything was her fault when he never did anything. But then after 4 times of them breaking up and getting back together, I was like, dude, come on. Like, this says a lot about you now. Like, you need to just go because you're sticking around with somebody that's bad to you and them. And that's just, like, I feel like something strange is going on. But it gets really hard to leave
but
people.
you know, like, it really is. And that's why I knew if I didn't leave him, then how bad did it have to get? And ironically enough,
like
this was a year ago that we broke up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He's already married to the girl he cheated on me with at Burning Man and is moving to... he moved to Switzerland.
I'm
so
like, sorry, but
no,
so funny.
but this extreme behavior, I'm just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I met him. He threw me off my path so that I know who I am and what my values are and how I'm supposed to be treated. Not with just him, but like... I've become so much more in tune with like, okay, I used to struggle with, oh my God, I see good and bad in everyone. Who's good and who's bad?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
everyone has good and bad, but on an energetic level,
it's pretty clear.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I got better at realizing, hey, my current boyfriend has flaws, but you know what? He's so beautiful.
Were you outweighing the good over the bad because you felt that if there was any good in somebody that the good weighed more?
I always felt like I had to save people.
Yeah.
And and that stemmed from my family.
What age are you like in your siblings?
I'm the mediator. I'm the middle.
Okay.
You're
the mediator.
So my little brother's struggling. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I'll carry you, even though I'm struggling. And recently, like, I'm just like, no, I haven't slept in 2 days.
Yeah.
Let me get to bed. I know you need help,
That's
but
good
like,
for them
I
too,
cannot
though.
help you
Sometimes
until I help myself.
Right. And sometimes the lesson is, you got to do this yourself, dude.
Yeah. That one's hit me hard recently. And it's hard for me because I've always been helper. And then I'm like, you know what? I've helped so much that I almost forgot who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way a little bit. I'm the golden child in my family. Like, I totally am. I'm self-aware enough. My family loves me. And my youngest brother has autism. He can't talk or really comprehend much. And my middle brother is super, super smart. And lately I've been taking a stance of not being around my family to kind of let my little brothers shine a little bit. I'm always helping my youngest brother, but I felt bad. Basically what I'm saying is I'm always conscious of my family's emotions as well. So it's stressful. And at times Tess has even said, she's like, these people aren't being very nice to you and you're like going above and beyond for them. And as soon as I started like giving them time to work things out on themselves or for themselves,
it benefited the whole relationship.
Yeah, it totally
Funny
does.
that you say that because I felt the same way with my family recently. But I think bottom line, I've been getting this like message in my life.
Are there fireworks going on outside?
I think so, probably. Okay, it's July in California.
July in California.
So
you've been getting this message in your life.
Just, you can't fill your own cup if it's or you can't fill other people's cup if yours is empty. You can't help other people until you help yourself. And recently I've realized like when I'm feeling really good and shining out of my face, like people see it and people vibe off of it.
Totally.
When I go and I'm like tired and don't want to be there and feel like I'm forced to be there because I feel like pressured, just like these.
There's
It's
this thing
like a
that
huge
happens
difference.
a lot because I go to a lot of shows to see bands. You'll see a band play, and then they get off the stage, and another band plays, and that band is clearly like such a great band. And you'll hear the guys in the band that played first go, I don't know, they're just like, they're all right. I don't know. They're just being like super negative, and you can see that it's their insecurities, and they can't, because of their own insecurities, they can't even appreciate somebody that took the time to be a great musician. And nobody pays those people any attention. They're looking at the band that has their shit together and is putting on a show and isn't being negative. Like, people can tell. You were talking about energy or vibes with people. You can see pretty early on if somebody's going to be good or bad for you. But the hardest thing is recognizing that and walking away. Because there are certain things that attract us to people that we don't want to walk away from, even though we can tell this is going to be shitty a year from now.
But I also realized that the more I know myself and I'm strong with myself, the harder it is to sway my boat. Does that make sense? So like when I know myself and then someone tries, or I meet someone who's a certain way, like I can separate, okay, this is my feelings and this is their feelings and whatever. But, I don't know. I feel like the more that you know yourself,
right,
the more that you can understand other people and like separate yourself from other people. Because when you're sensitive, sometimes you get mixed feelings with your feelings and their feelings. At least for me.
I agree. I had a conversation with my mom today. And whenever I'm feeling really good about myself and I feel like I'm on the right track and I'm getting things done and I'm feeling confident, my mom always happens to bring up the fact that she says I'm not being nice. And we had this long conversation about it. And I'm like, I feel better than I've ever felt. I don't understand how I'm not being nice. And I'm like, give me examples on how I'm being mean to you. But what I realized is when my confidence gets built up, I don't have time to play mind games with people. And so because I'm feeling happy and confident, I'll be honest with them. I'll be like, no, I don't think that's the way that is. This is really what's going on, and I think you just need to look at it that way. And, that's just, this is fact over emotion. And when I tell my mom that, she gets upset that I'm being mean. I can't. It's hard because we have people in our lives that want us to cater to them and kind of like just let them feel something, even though it's not going to be beneficial for them. But especially with my mom, I'm like, I don't want her to have negative thinking or bad habits. And so when I tell her that she's wrong, she says that I'm being mean.
So here's the thing funny that you say that is I realized that when I was really... Okay, so 2 years ago when I was really into my yoga and first discovering it, I was kind of similar in the way that I saw how I could fix or help someone fix a problem, and I'd tell them how to fix it. And it seems so simple just telling them how to do it, but when it comes to actually doing it, it's like a different level.
Right.
Does that make sense? So the more that I realize that like things are the way they are, okay, we can put out our words and try to help, but sometimes we have to let people learn their own lessons.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's
just
like
hard
finding
when it's
the
your
balance.
mom.
Definitely, because we care and we want to see them thrive.
And I would rather say it a billion times and then have her be able to do it herself than be fed up that
because
I've said
I think you see the problem and you can shed light on the problem. But it helps to say it once or twice, but at the end of the day, they have to do it.
Right. Yeah. It was funny. I had this thought today because I basically have my own business now, which is weird to me. But I was driving, I had to go to this warehouse to pick up blank t-shirts. And I realized most of my day is spent out of the office, like running errands. And I remember a time when I felt that like when you were at work, you had to be at your desk, like inside, and you can't go outside. I remember like dreaming of going outside. And when I did spend an hour outside, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is work time. I'm outside.
Yeah.
I feel like, a rebel. But now it's just natural. I'm outside all day and I feel so much better. And I think that we get trapped in this, like, we set limits for ourselves, borders for ourselves that we can't see. And that's why when I tell stuff to my mom, I'm like, you're setting this boundary for you that you don't see. And one day, when you eventually do hop that fence, you're going to be like, oh, shit.
So I want to bring up something. I don't know if you're interested in talking about psychedelics.
Yeah, I love psychedelics.
I'm
interested.
Yeah, okay.
In
so before I ever did psychedelics, I was already really big into meditation and getting into this state of mind of just like blank. And then like I'd always meditate overlooking this canyon where I used to live. And I would just meditate and then I'd open my eyes and I'd feel at one with everything.
Yeah.
So the first time I did acid was probably like a year after I was really heavy in this stuff. So
what age is this?
21.
Okay.
I'm 23 now, so a couple years ago. And I did it, and that state the acid gave me was this one-pointedness, one zone. And like it's the same feeling I had during lucid dreaming and during deep, deep meditation. And so I feel like when I used psychedelics, it let me see those borders that I built for myself. Right. And a lot of those borders we build are based off of our family values, what we learned through school, what we learned through church. What is it? It's like called the 5 institutions. It's like town, whatever. There's like 5 of them.
Basically your environment that you're brought up.
Your environment, yeah, exactly. So those boundaries. So one of them, I like to microdose here and there.
I've never tried that. I want to try it.
Okay, so the thing about psychedelics is, you know how earlier I talked about that floating state of creativity, intuition? Yeah. You need groundedness. So if you abuse psychedelics, you're floating. And you don't have any connection to reality.
Yeah.
But if you're like too much in reality, you're stuck in those walls.
It's crazy to me because you've put it into words that I have been looking for a while. But when you say that you've done psychedelics and it's very like focused, like a one track, you can see everything as being one, and it's very clear. Tess is the same way with psychedelics. She can like see things for how they are.
Yeah.
But you also said that you get caught up in reality. And the thing is, when I take psychedelics, it's both at the same time. I feel like the oneness of everything and I see the big picture, but I also see the way reality is. And it's just, I have an anxiety problem, so psychedelics are very tough for me. But I almost feel like when I do psychedelics now or more recently, it's taken me too much out of reality.
Okay, so the thing about psychedelics is set and setting.
I did the last couple times we're in Joshua Tree, and it was beautiful.
But even just your emotional state that week is so important. Okay, so
yeah.
The reason why I got into yoga was I was having panic attacks. I stopped smoking weed because I thought weed was giving me panic attacks. Every time I thought of weed, smoked weed,
but it's just your anxiety.
But it was really just manifesting what was really deep, deep, deep.
Right.
It was bringing it to the surface.
Which is why I love psychedelics and why I love pot, because it shows you that.
Exactly, but at the same time, like, that's why, okay, so I heard this thing that psychedelics are a shortcut to like 10 years of meditation.
Yeah. I heard the same thing, but they said it's 4 years of therapy in 4 hours.
But at the same time, like, your mindset going into it, even the unconscious mindset that you're not aware of, is so important. So personally, because I've had so much trauma in my life, I don't like taking large doses. Because it hits you all at once, your tummy hurts, you feel really nauseous. But when you take little bits at a time, you can manage it. Yeah. It's more therapeutic and you're not abusing it. And you know what? I'm not saying there's a wrong or right way to do it.
No, I mean.
But personally, I use them for healing, and that's my intention. And so that's what I get from it.
I try to as well. But with healing, when you're going into trying to heal yourself, sometimes one of the side effects of trying to make yourself better is confronting some harsh fucking shit.
Yeah. And if you're not ready, it's hard.
I know. See, yes, it is always going to be hard if you're not ready. But I feel like I'm so conscious about everything. It sounds douchey to say, but I feel like I'm really in tune with everything.
Me too.
And so then when I do acid, I'm kind of like, okay.
I've only done acid 1.5 times, if that gives you any.
I've done it probably 5 times.
I don't even think it matters, but
I don't think
I love mushrooms because personally,
I've never done that.
Okay, but they're very different. Very different.
Explain the difference to me, like your own personal. Yes,
acid's more cerebral, more lucid.
So when I do acid, I'm super analytical.
So you're in your mind.
Yes.
Okay. Mushrooms, you get body,
but
and mind. Okay. So it's more. So if you take a large dose, you'll literally need to lay down. You're just like, fuck. You get like melting.
A good fuck or a bad fuck?
Both. Okay. So, you know how in acid you have waves of just like, holy shit, what's going on? And then wow, you know, and you have these waves. You know, it's just different. Mushrooms, I feel like are more like, this is how it is. Because if you think about it, a mushroom is a plant. Yeah. It has.
Well, I think that's the environmental aspect of going into something. I think going into doing shrooms, we know it comes from the earth, so we feel more grounded.
But it helps us see the big picture that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Because if you think of mushrooms, how do they interconnect in the ground?
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
They're a community.
They have webs in the Amazon.
So it's kind of like a consciousness web.
Do you read much Terence McKenna? Have you ever read Terence McKenna?
No, but I know who he is.
I read his book, Archaic Revival, and it's about mostly ayahuasca, but he gets into a lot about like shrooms. And man...
The universal truth.
Yes. Terence McKenna is very theatrical with his use of what he claims mushrooms can be. He almost gives them personas and like, you know, lives of their own. And they are a living organism. But at the time, I think he was trying to be a little bit shocking. But he definitely shows us that mushrooms are a living organism, and we're consuming a living organism that has psychedelic abilities, and you're eating the flesh of the gods. Mushrooms have been around in history for decades. The invasion into Native Americans by the Spaniards, they were trying to spread Christianity. They would literally, if they found you doing mushrooms, they would kill you because they didn't want you experiencing any god other than their god. And man, it's just, I think mushrooms are probably one of the oldest psychedelics.
I think that's maybe why I feel so much more attracted to them than acid, because
it's tried and true.
Personally, like, I haven't done many drugs other than alcohol and, you know, psychedelics. I haven't tried pills and stuff. So I'm really creeped out by like man-made stuff. So because acid, you really don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
Okay. You don't.
Acid has fentanyl in it now. Have you heard that?
Because of that, I'm very wary.
Yes.
And that's why mushrooms, like, you're not going to have a laced mushroom.
Right.
Okay, maybe unless you get it from someone really sketchy.
Right. But mostly mushrooms. Nobody's going to be tampering with the mushrooms.
More natural. So.
But if you fuck up one sequence of chemicals, your acid trip could be so much different. Yeah. And most people don't fuck with shrooms. They don't add anything onto it. But do you know what fentanyl is?
Not particularly.
So, what is it? That guy, Lil Peep? That rapper dude.
Yeah.
So he was taking street Xanax.
Oh, and had fentanyl.
It has fentanyl in it, and it's basically if you take a pin drop, the tip of a pin of fentanyl can kill an elephant.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like 10,000 more times potent per volume than heroin, and they're putting it in street drugs because it's a good substitute for that like benzodiazepine feeling that gets you like really sluggish, but it's killing people. And I didn't know you could put it in acid, but it's being put in acid. So they've been putting fentanyl in LSD, which I didn't know you could do. And because I have an anxiety problem, I always thought that, doing acid with maybe a little bit of Xanax would be really good for me because I'm very good at Xanax. I can take a lot of Xanax and function. Like, I have to take 4 full bars of Xanax before I black out, which is like unheard of.
That's a high tolerance.
Yes, I have a high tolerance for a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think for life, I have a very high tolerance. Not that that's good.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't, strive for that. I'm just saying it accidentally happened, and I noticed that, okay, it takes 4 bars for me to pass out. I ingested the other 3 without knowing. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't. Okay, anyway. But I'm surprised you can put acid or fentanyl in acid. And there's just so many things streetwise and pill-wise that are just killing people. And I'm kind of done with all the stuff that's man-made. I just don't have any urge anymore.
So, getting a little personal, the last time I did cocaine was in last October. Okay? And the reason I even tried it was my ex, the alcoholic. I was just like, yeah, fuck
Alcoholics
everything.
like cocaine.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not saying it's a whatever. Do your thing. I'm not anti-cocaine, but
I think cocaine's bad, by the way.
okay, so the last time I did it, and what really woke me up was I did it, and I was really fucked up last Halloween. I saw the number 44. I can't even fucking remember them, okay, because I was so fucked up. Okay, it was in LA, and
Did you know that they've been on the podcast?
I think I saw something with the number 44.
Oh, yeah, I
there,
print
so
their t-shirts too.
Oh.
Yeah, but they came on
cool.
recently.
So I saw them, and I kind of didn't see them because I
Right.
was so fucked up,
Right.
On top of alcohol. And months later, one of my homies brought it up that was there with me that night, and he was like, yeah, man, we didn't even know what that was that we were snorting. And then I looked back,
man.
I'm like, no wonder I felt like shit the next day. Like, who knows what was in that shit? They
Might
probably
have been
got it.
ketamine or something.
Who knows? Okay, so I mean, I
What-
didn't
what
really
was your-
hallucinate. I didn't hallucinate.
Okay.
I just was really fucked up.
Like,
But the
fucked up
next day, I just had a really bad headache, and I felt really nauseous. But it was a combination of just like alcohol and
sounds like coke. Could be a little bit of meth, but it sounds like
yeah.
coke.
But even though, just like the idea
Just because you didn't
of
know.
not knowing the
Yeah.
source,
You know, you can
and
snort
not
heroin.
trusting the source,
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Do I really want to put this in
It's
my
not
body?
worth it.
Because, I care about things being, I try to buy organic things. I'm not like a freak about it.
Right.
But just like what,
You try
what
to
do you
be
put in your
conscious of
body?
what you put
Even
in your body.
alcohol, I think that's probably one of the only drugs that I do other than pot. Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol is definitely the worst drug I do because I do it often.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst drug I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it becomes less and less attractive when you get older, like trying new drugs. Like if your friend came up to you at a party and was like, hey, try this drug, everybody's doing it, you'd be like, or at least me.
I've always been kind of like a no to that.
I've usually always been yes.
Oh.
But as of recently, most drugs make me not able to eat, not able to sleep, and I love those things.
I don't even know how I used to drink when I was like 18. I would go out and take 7 shots. And now if I took 7 shots, I'd be
Yeah.
like,
There's a
send me to the hospital. Oh
I
my
know,
God.
it's so crazy, but that's like a common theme. There was a joke that I loved from Workaholics, like one of the first episodes, and this kid goes, come on, dude, let's finish this bottle of tequila. And he goes, I can't drink like that. I'm not 16 anymore. And it's like,
Your bodies lose elasticity in your mid-20s.
yeah, your body just gets worse at coping with stuff as you get older. But for some reason, when you're underage, you can drink anyone under the table.
And you'll wake up the next day and feel okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I drink more than 2 IPAs. And I don't have enough food in my tummy. And my stomach the next day hates me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. When you get older, you start recognizing your health based on the kinds of shits you're taking.
Yeah.
At least I have.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like,
Or
oh,
just
man.
like, I feel like when I know I'm healthy when I wake up and I'm hungry. I know that sounds weird. Because sometimes if I'm unhealthy, when I wake up, I feel a little bit nauseous. I'm like, if breakfast doesn't sound good, which was a lot of my life when I was like in high school and stuff.
Right.
But when I was active and I was doing a lot, I was like hungry all the time.
When your body's consuming more, or when your body's digesting
When there's
more
like a
than
healthy
you're consuming.
balance.
Right. Yeah, my thing is now I don't eat breakfast anymore, and I try to not eat after 11, and I try not to eat till 12, because our bodies evolved a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're consuming more hours of the day than you are digesting, I mean, there's science behind it, but it just feels wrong.
I feel like it depends on your body type.
My body does not do well when I'm shoving my... I use food as...
Fuel?
A way to feel happy. Like, I need something to do. I need, 10 minutes of energy, and then I feel 30 minutes of being really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I use food to kind of like satisfy something,
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're smoking pot and you have the munchies and you're like, this sounds like it would be pleasurable.
Yeah. I feel like we don't like talk about it enough, but I feel like I'm not addicted to one thing. I'm addicted to like self-medicating in any way I can. And because there's not a pattern, maybe it's not noticeable to most people.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are most of those things that you self-medicate with pleasurable? Do they turn on the same part of the brain?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
So
and
recently...
I know why I'm doing it.
Yeah, so if you think of our most primal aspects of ourselves, where do we gain pleasure from? Food, sex, alcohol, drugs.
I thought that was a trick question.
No,
I was going to be like,
really.
the penis. Okay, but yeah.
So like instinctual pleasures, and
yes.
even though those are healthy to an extent, when you abuse them, they are draining.
Yes.
So if you have way too much sex, or if you overeat, it can be like so heavy and like draining.
It's a heavy feeling. When you're eating too much, when you're having too much sex.
It's like, what's the word? Gluttony.
Yeah.
Gluttony. Someone was like, don't call it pleasure, because pleasure is not a bad thing.
Right.
Call it gluttony, like having too much than you need.
Right. It's about, I'm conscious enough that when I know that I'm getting a bacon avocado cheeseburger, I know it's because I need some kind of
sometimes that's
pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes
right,
that's okay.
But it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm conscious enough to know it's too much, and so then I get immediate guilt, and then it becomes a like vicious cycle.
But what if you never even had the thought that it was wrong?
I would get fat.
But that's like really unconscious.
Right. So I'd rather be conscious. I'd rather be
and that's
try
all
to
that
be
matters.
Evolved. Yes.
Because when you're conscious, you're aware. And when you're aware, you can change.
Right. I'm pretty sure, and I see this pattern with a lot of conscious males. I can't speak for women, but I've noticed the conscious males in my life. When they hit 40, these dudes are in the best shape of their life. And they have all these like positive patterns in their lives. And I notice now all the things that are bad in my life, and I'm slowly working to fix them. How old do you think I am?
27. I guess really above than usual.
Okay. That's good. I'm 24.
Okay.
Age doesn't matter to me, by the way. I'm not. I just like asking people that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm happy that I'm conscious now, because I feel like I'm on my way to being super healthy in my 30s and in the best shape of my life in my 40s.
Yeah.
And it's just my 20s. I know looking back, I'm going to be upset with myself that I felt so guilty the whole time.
Me too.
Because I'm so
We're so
hard
young.
on myself.
Oh my God. Funny that you say that. So I just graduated from a yoga certification. It was a year long, and it was with a group of women who were all in their 40s. There was one woman in her 30s, and I was the only girl in my 20s. Mm-hmm. And it was Ayurvedic Yoga Awakening.
What is that?
So Ayurveda is a Indian kind of medicine where it looks at lifestyle, diet, and it's very, very hard. I don't want to even get into it. I'm not even that educated on it, but there's certain body types in relation to the 5 elements. There's technically 4 elements, but there's a fifth element, which is space. So there's like water, wind, air, fire, space.
Okay, got it.
So there's 3 main body types, and according to those body types, you should avoid and eat certain foods or lifestyles, etc.
Okay.
Besides the point, all those women were in their 40s, and I'm this little 20-year-old, and I'm just like, oh my God, these women are double my age, and they have double experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what they said to me, and a lot of them said to me, is, you're so lucky to have all this knowledge at such a young age, because you're, not to make you feel bad, but you're so young and you have so much learning to do.
Right.
And I had 2 old ladies that came into my restaurant the other day, and I don't know what we were talking about, but I literally said to them, these old ladies, me saying, I'm not afraid to get old.
Yeah.
And they look shocked.
Yeah,
And
I feel the same way.
I said, I have so much to learn.
Yeah.
And they were so shocked that I'm saying this. But it's true, like you said, like right now we're feeling guilty. Like I said, I want a morning routine.
Yeah.
Does anyone have that at 23? Waking up
Not
at
a good
7
one.
a.m., doing yoga, praying, eating this, doing that, like it's so
super
much
rare.
discipline.
Yeah.
But we have to be patient,
Yeah, I think we definitely are in a really cool spot, because we're in a time now where it is realistic to have a non-conventional life that is productive and makes you money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that wasn't possible for our parents.
Definitely.
Like, they had to do something.
It's the media.
And then the invention of the internet being okay. So the internet was invented when my parents were young. My parents are like 44. The internet was invented when they were young, but computers started coming into everyone's house
when we were kids.
So everyone
floppy disks still existed.
But everybody basically started getting computers when we were in elementary
And
school.
then cell phones.
So we grew up with so much information. This is going to be the information age. Yeah. Right now, tomorrow at a little bit before noon, an hour or so of us talking is going to be uploaded to the internet. Like,
even just you guys meeting was because of the internet.
we met because of the internet. And so we have a step above generations before us.
Very true, yeah.
And
I feel like we don't know where that's going to take us. It's very unpredictable in my case.
I have an overwhelming feeling that it's going to be positive.
You think so?
Yeah. I call myself a pessimistic romantic, because I always think of the worst, but I hope for the best.
Yeah.
But it's not just a saying, like, I'm super negative about things, but at the same time, I'm like, nah.
I think it's a way of coping with, okay, you hope for the worst, like you said, but it's a way of coping because, I don't know. I feel like,
What is a way of coping? What do you mean?
What were we talking about?
My thought process of being a pessimistic romantic.
It's a way of coping with, like, expect the worst. And then
Right.
anything better is great.
Yeah. It's a good way, because
Like,
then you're
think
never
of,
going to be
like,
disappointed.
Think of, like, the environment. I mean, the worst that can happen is, like, we kill all the animals and then we kill the world.
Right.
I mean, we kill the capability of us surviving on Earth.
Right.
We can't kill Earth. Earth will kill us.
Right. I was thinking
Right?
about this, and I've talked about it with many people, and I said, would it really be so bad if every human died? And they're like, what? And I'm like,
I mean, think of dinosaurs.
I know, but
We really don't know the big scheme.
but here's the thing: if every human drops dead right now, nature will keep going.
Yeah.
And
it's like an onward momentum.
Isn't nature one of the most pure things?
Aren't we connected to it?
I think so. And if nature keeps going, do humans ever end? Because if you believe in evolution, if you believe in science, then eventually living organisms come from nature. So it's all recycled
Yeah,
shit.
and even the idea of God is so abstract in a way because, like, personally, like, I've just learned that God is everywhere. And, like,
God is just a
5
blanket
years
term.
ago, if you told me this table had a vibration,
Mhm.
I would think you were crazy or woohoo.
Right.
But it's like, here's the thing about having an open mind. It's like, it's not about accepting anything that comes into your presence. It's about just being open to it, so that when you grow, you allow your mindset to shift.
Yeah.
Because what's the opposite? I mean, always having the same mindset.
Yeah,
which is common, but I mean, here's the thing, like, it's great to be the kind of people that we are, kind of progressive, learning, evolving people, but
Right.
there's always going to be an opposite end, and that's just how it is. And like, we can't expect everyone to be
right
on the same level.
And it's so weird because we're in a time now where people are going to be shunning us for talking like this because we are privileged Californians, and you know, there's always
our perspective.
Yeah, it's our perspective. There's always going to be push and pull from each side, but realistically, if you look at the big picture, we're two people that decided to meet each other for the first time.
We don't know anything about each other.
Flesh some information out. You're going to learn something from this. I'm going to learn something from this. We're both going to go home.
But you know, if you look at even yoga or any religion or any kind of connection to a higher power, when you boil everything down and you strip away everyone's ego, if you look at every culture that ever believed in a god, they just always believed there was something more.
It's so
and I
similar.
think that's all that matters. Just knowing that there's another level we cannot comprehend, whether it's a god or a thing or an entity or whatever.
Have you heard the elephant analogy?
I think.
So God, Allah, whatever you want to call the creator, the universe, agrees to meet with the head of every religion, every major religion. But he says, when you meet me, you'll be blindfolded. But I will let you see me, touch me, speak with me. And so they all get blindfolded. There's the leader of Islam, and he touches the elephant's trunk. God turns himself into an elephant to represent something physical for them. So he turns himself into an elephant, something they've all seen before. Leader of Islam touches his trunk. Leader of Christianity touches his leg. And the leader of, Catholicism touches his tail. All the other major religions are touching a different body. Leader of Islam goes, oh, God feels like this. He's long and like a snake. And then the leader of Christianity goes, no, he's not. He's solid, like a tree trunk. And the leader of Catholicism did I say Catholicism? Anyway, then the next one says, no, he's like this. He's a small. They're all touching the same thing, but describing it differently from a different perspective. And that's just how I feel about religion. We're all talking about the same exact fucking thing.
And even when you think of spirituality, you meet two spiritual people, they're going to be talking about similar, however different experiences. And it's just so, like I said, God is abstract. He's different to everyone. He manifests in different ways. And
God is just too personal to
put in a
organize.
Box.
Yeah, put in a box.
So I don't think church is wrong. I don't think religion is wrong. However,
I don't think anything is inherently wrong.
Yeah. I'm not anti-religion. However, I'm just anti not accepting people.
Groups scare me.
Yeah.
So I think when too many people get together and reaffirm themselves over and over, it's just like a bunch of people like jacking each other off. It's like you're finding somebody that's like you. That's not challenging yourself. You have to like find people that aren't like you and see how you are similar.
It's funny because I heard someone tell me, they're like, sometimes it's good to have friends that challenge you and to challenge your beliefs. Because then, I remember one of my good friends, Natalie, one time she straight up told me something about myself that I knew was true. It was like an ego trip. And she's like, Sasha, sometimes you do this. I'm like, ouch. But then really, she was doing me a favor.
Right. She's being real with you.
Yeah. And I think, that's important. But I don't know how I got on that topic. But.
Well, because I was saying that, when you get in a echo chamber of people just jacking each other off and making each other feel good, that's not always the best.
Especially if you have some point or one person in authority.
Yes. Yeah.
Because then,
Any
the master knows everything.
Okay. Yeah, hierarchies upset me, but so just to pinpoint one thing. So let's take Christianity or Catholicism. Those are huge ones, right?
Mhm.
Basically, the Bible is direct from God, correct?
Mhm.
So why do we need priests? Why can't you just read the Bible and read God?
Okay, I know this might be a little touchy, but I grew up in Islam.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know who Jesus was until I was 7.
I'm not. It might be touchy for some people.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
feel
exactly.
Free to,
Yeah.
To just.
So when I left Islam and then started finding Christianity around 13 years old, because that was the religion my
It's
mom
America's-
introduced me
yeah.
to. Episcopalian, but same
Right.
thing. I was very curious as to why everyone prayed through Jesus.
prayed
okay.
through him.
Yes. In Jesus' name, amen, kind of thing.
Okay, yes.
So
yes, yes.
I always had a straight relationship to God. And I understand that prophets are great people. And I know Jesus was the Son of God. You know? So, but at the same time, like, I feel like you said, kind of like the priests thing, people even use like certain leaders like Jesus as a medium between them and their higher power, and it almost separates you from God. It's like,
Right.
oh, I'm not holy enough to talk to God. I have to pray to Jesus to tell
yeah.
God. And
Yeah.
so it's not wrong.
Well, this is
it's
what I
not
mean
wrong.
by
It could still work in the same way. It could still be the same great
it's a
benefit.
hierarchy, though.
It is. It's like
We're,
and I think
we're
Jesus is a
lowly
great
people.
man. Mary was a great woman. You know, all
Right.
these people were great. But why can't you have a one way?
Well, this is.
Why are you not holy enough?
I think that from an environmental and evolutionary aspect, the story of God and Jesus and Mary was a way to instill beliefs that would benefit society at the time. And I think Jesus was a reflection of all the best things that you could be as a human.
Yeah, because he was God in human.
Right, in human form, but because you could never be perfect, you had Jesus, who was that. You can't be perfect, but you could be pretty close to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to be perfect, you'd be God, and nobody's perfect.
But it almost makes certain people afraid.
Yeah, it creates a hierarchy of knowing that you'll never be good enough.
My
and
sister,
I think it's
yeah.
a way of trapping thought, and we're growing out of that. We're growing out of a lot of
Mhm.
religions.
Yeah, I heard that some of the really old churches are dying.
Yeah.
Especially Episcopal churches and churches where it's like predominantly old folk. So when the
Yeah.
old folk pass away, there's no new folk.
Yep. Because I think it has to do with the internet. We have so much information now that you can...
Everyone's science. And the people that do go to church, they're more new age churches.
Sure. Internet could be propaganda, a
Mhm.
propaganda machine. That's kind of hard for me too, because propaganda does not necessarily mean it's bad. Propaganda just means the spreading of information. But I'm talking about negative information, misleading information. Because we have the internet, people have so much more information, they don't know what's real.
Mhm.
But if you have even the slightest scientific mind, you can find out the bigger picture of everything. And because we have the internet, I think the internet is killing religion. Because you can be like, oh, wait, why did this happen? Why did these people kill? Why was there a genocide? Oh, that was in the name of God? Ugh. And then you can like look up more information and be like, why did that person do that? Why did they feel that way? And then you can draw your own conclusions. But when you had priests, the priest would tell you what was right and wrong. And the priest acted like a government. And
Yeah, it is a government.
Yes.
There's this theory that...
I think people are just... Sorry, real quick. I think people are less scared of religion these days. I feel like
Mhm.
people are more willing to test the waters out.
with first-hand experiences.
What was that?
It's like a little more inclusive nowadays.
It is more inclusive, I think, because of the internet, social media, stuff like that. Yeah. This is a heavy subject.
It really is. And that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. Like, I know, like, my own brother's Mormon.
Mhm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with religion. I think that community is so important.
Oh, yes.
And it saves so many people. And it's great when it's great, but it does have its flaws. And like everything, you know? Even take yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I am almost... I don't know how to feel about how yoga is marketed now, especially in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Most famous Insta yogis are white privileged Santa Monica wearing $100 yoga pants yoga people.
Sure.
And it's become a sport in a way.
Sure.
And it's lost a lot of where it's come from India. And it's, you know, you go to India and you meet yogis, they all have pot bellies and they meditate most of the day. They're not into these...
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I understand where you're coming from, but I also think that, like, it's still a good gateway.
Definitely.
So, although it has become a privileged kind of Los Angeles, like, thing to do...
It's a big change for our consciousness.
Yes, I think... Exactly.
That's why
how
I said I don't
it.
know how to feel. Because part
Yin and
of
yang,
me...
man.
Exactly. So, part of me is like, I wish people... Okay, so I'm a yoga teacher now. I haven't started teaching classes, but I have a lot of people coming up to me and saying, oh, I'd start yoga, but I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, that's not what yoga is.
What do you mean? I'm confused.
So
I'd start
people
yoga...
think of yoga as physical.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, not even to me. I mean, yes, I know that certain people do think of it that way.
But from an outsider's perspective.
Yes.
I thought of it that
I don't
way.
practice yoga, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I've even thought about practicing meditation, which to me is a huge part of yoga.
Yes.
The hardest part of practicing meditation is getting mentally ready
to sit
to
down.
do the
To sit down,
meditation.
yeah. But it's like,
But I know what you mean. It's hard to feel.
Like
the word spirituality has even been kind of.
And
it
it's
has
different.
It's a dirty word now. It's been corrupted.
Okay, so I recently, within the past year, met someone off of Instagram who was a YouTuber, and he was very big in the spiritual community. I'm not going to say any names, but as I got to know him, I was like, what the heck? This guy is super egotistical.
Yeah.
Okay. Super into himself. Is trying to take advantage of me because I'm a girl. And etc.
Well,
wasn't a good person.
Right.
But then a lot of my friends follow him and look up to him, and I looked up to him.
And they're benefiting from their idea of him.
Of what they can sell from spirituality.
Right.
So I'm not saying that the westernization of yoga is wrong. I just don't
It's become dirty. It's become muddied waters.
It is. It's like
harder
becoming
to find,
a money.
Yes, it's harder to find truth.
And then it makes me realize that you really can't trust what people put themselves out to be.
I think that I 100% agree. And I think it just really comes down to we've got to make people smarter. We've got to make people more independent of thought, because if
they start to follow.
Yeah, if you have
without
too many
thought.
Follow without thought. But if you have a society where people are born to question, they'll look at people like the huge internet people like Jake Paul, Logan Paul.
Yeah, like
all these,
Kylie Jenner.
Yeah. And they'll look at them, and if they're smart enough, I'm sorry, if you're smart enough, you'll see through it. And I think that we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves that these people exist.
Or
we should try
them.
On them. We should just try to make it a mission to be more aware of what's going on.
So did Kylie Jenner choose to be Kylie Jenner?
100%. 100%.
Okay. However, I don't think when these people advertise certain things, they don't really think about the wave of effect that they shift. So for instance, I'm, Kylie Jenner. Here's my lip product. I have big, luscious lips.
Mm-hmm. That's so primal to me.
It shifts onto all these little Instagram girls that are 14 years old that are now buying their lip kits, and by 18 they want lip injections.
Well,
it's like they don't think about the ripple effect, and
we can barely hear you. I'm sorry, Tess.
But we don't think about the ripple effect. So I always said, like, if I was in authority, like, fuck, I would use that power to shift people.
Sure, because you're coming at it now.
Because I'm a conscious person.
Yes.
And some people make that shift within money. Have you seen that before?
Yes,
Like an
yes.
artist that goes from like Mac Miller. I know he's like so random, but like he went from I'm rich and now I'm in drugs and now I'm talking about the divine feminine.
Yeah, I mean,
like this huge shift. It's amazing.
This is the reason why I think, or why I say that 100% Kylie Jenner did it to herself. Because you can, at any point in your life, decide to change. I don't believe that it's impossible. I do believe that it becomes harder based on your environment. But at the beginning of her life, she had the decision, do I do this thing for money and have temporary satisfaction? Or do I confront the things that are making me question my reality, making me feel intense about my emotions? Because you know she has emotions just like every other person. And those emotions don't feel good because you're not, or certain emotions, when they don't feel good, it's easier to put a Band-Aid over them. Band-Aid, ignore them by making money, by having 1,000 people tell you you're so fucking cat. Yeah, it's like, it's easier to do that than to confront the problem. And
for anybody, even your mom, like you were saying earlier.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sorry, but I respect people that confront the problem more. I do. And we live in a time where you're not allowed to say anything bad about anybody, but I truly, truly like people more who decide to face their problems and not just put a Band-Aid on things. And I think that certain people are, if we're going to use a loose term, better than others. Like right now, I believe we're all equal and we're all one, and that you should love every person equally and respect them equally.
Yeah.
But certain people are trying harder.
Yeah.
And I think we should give those people credit.
So I just recently watched a documentary on sensitives.
What is that?
So if you're
for people
sensitive,
listening, she did air quotes.
Okay, sensitives, right? Yeah. So I'm probably, you should go look it up yourself, but pretty much it's 20% of the population, both men and women. These people experience higher stimulation than other people.
Oh, okay, I get it.
So they're
are we talking about, like, you know,
energetically?
Okay. So they're more sensitive to,
very sensitive to just like experiences. So they look really deeply into things. They let things really consume them, and like there's positives and negatives to being a sensitive person. So if you go into a really crowded room and you feel really overwhelmed and you feel everything and you're really sensitive to being overstimulated by things, you have to really set boundaries, things like that. But 20% of the population of people are sensitive.
Last night, me and my friend did a podcast. He has a podcast in Long Beach. And then we went down the street to a bar to go see one of our friends' bands play. And we were in there. We got a beer. We were hanging out. Then we went outside. We were only there for about 10 minutes. And he looks at me and he goes, Are we getting bad vibes? And I was like, yes, dude. Like, for some reason, this does not feel good. Like, something is really tense. And I think most artists would consider themselves sensitives. But it's true. It's people who look at what's going on with the human psyche. It's hard.
It's being tuned into your five senses to another level.
Yes. Well...
And like I said, it doesn't make you better. It actually comes with negative side effects.
Yes, it's
hard to deal with.
I would say that it's really hard, but just because it's harder to deal with and people do deal with it, that also does not make you better than somebody else. Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like people do think that. But for people that know, that's kind of where the psychic wave came from. It's just trying to be aware of everything going on.
And here's the thing. It's so funny.
But I'm not like
It's so funny that you said to me that based off of my social media that I come off as a person who has things
right
together. I mean, okay, so to put things in perspective, I'm 23. I completely support myself. I work. I'm trying to get somewhere, and I just don't know where I'm going. Okay?
Yeah.
But I have this calling to do something. I'm just not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm going to follow whatever it is. But besides that point, I don't even know. It's just
You were just
listening
saying,
to myself and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Instagram is so hard because before
it's me trying to be my best version.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily say that that's who I
right.
exactly am.
That's what my problem is with my social media. Is actually that I am trying to be the best human that I can be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that me drinking with bands and wrestling and like getting thrown into desks and breaking desks, it's really good for Instagram. It looks fun and we're rowdy and it's rock and roll. But that's not who I am on a day-to-day thing.
Not just that, I feel like I'm already pretty open on my Instagram, and I'm so kind of already based off of emotion, and I almost feel like it's annoying to some people because some
Yes.
people just want to get to the point.
But
They just want shallow, and I know that shouldn't sway who I am, but at the same time, there's only so much that I feel comfortable about sharing on my social media. So even though my social media is open, I don't share much about my family life.
Sure.
I don't share much about my relationships. And in the past, I thought that was self-centered. Like, oh, why don't I show my friends more often? But then I realized that I use my Instagram for my outlet for a specific reason. And everyone uses it differently. So if I want to be emotional and type paragraphs, I can do it. And I shouldn't stop myself because I feel like some people are uncomfortable with it. Because at the end of the day, I have to stay true and authentic to myself. And even if, you know, I seem to have shit put together, does anybody know?
No.
You know?
And you're at least with this, you're better than me at social media, because when I start to type out something and it becomes a paragraph, I just don't post it.
Because it's almost too much to share.
That's how I feel.
It's like vulnerability.
It's not even it is vulnerable, but it's not that's not the reason why I'm not doing it. The reason why I'm not doing it is because it's not good advertising. And the thing is, though, I know going into it, if this post gets 1 million likes versus 5, I'd feel the same way about it.
Funny that you say that. I actually have a separate Instagram account for my really woohoo out there thoughts, because I felt like who I was for so long didn't merge with my very woohoo thoughts.
By the way,
so instead of
woohoo would be a great band name.
Yes. But instead of bugging all my old friends with my woohoo thoughts, I said, hey guys, if you're interested in spirituality and yoga, follow this. And I know that sounds like two-faced in a way, and which I've struggled with, but I just don't want to press anything on anyone who isn't about it. Does that make sense? I get 20 likes sense on all my other things. Like I get 20 likes and that's it, and I'm like, I got it out there, and that's all that matters.
I completely understand, because with me, I feel very strongly about my emotions because they're my emotions. But I also was brought up by my stepdad. My stepdad is the most logical, beautiful person. I swear, I really mean it. My stepdad, sometimes I think, like when I don't actually think this, by the way, please don't think I actually think this, but my stepdad took me in when I was 1, took me and my mom in, and he kind of looks like Jesus, and he like is totally the most rational, logical, level-minded, emotional, pure, kind person I've ever known. Like, it makes me want to cry. Like, he's so good. And it makes me think that, like, he might be Jesus, and this might be just some kind of, like, everybody plays out their own story of, like, what reality is and what God is. But God, where was I going with this? Oh, so I feel really strongly about certain psychedelic spiritual things, but I also know at the same time for anybody that is scientifically minded that I sound like an idiot because it's not something you can measure. And all I'm saying is I don't believe that it's any better or worse than being logical. I'm just saying I do feel those things and I don't preach them to the general public because it does have a negative bias. And I would just prefer to share that with people that I feel close to,
I was going to pull out my phone because I literally posted something on Instagram today, and it was from a quote from a book from Ram Dass.
I love Ram Dass.
So it was something about faith. And the last line that really struck me was, I saw that post, by the way. For those who have ears, let them hear. For those who do not want to hear, do not let them know. Meaning, like I said earlier, there's no wrong and right. Okay, yes and no, okay? But on a general level, like, things are the way they are. So, like, when I feel spiritual, I met someone who was spiritual and egotistical. And I'm trying so hard to come from a place of non-ego-ness.
Right. Well, I think the way that I feel that goes along with that is, like, sometimes when I want to tell somebody they're wrong, I don't. And then I think, we're all going to be dead. Like, am I really going to tell this person they're wrong? It's not going to really benefit them. Just let them be.
But if you feel like deep down they should hear it, you feel it. And you mention it. Yeah.
But for people that you have to gauge each experience.
And you have to feel the vibes.
So you read Be Here Now by Ram Dass. And I read his prequel to that, which is one that he wrote. And I didn't know this. Was in Joshua Tree, and I had never read any Ram Dass, but I recognized the name, and I was at a thrift store. So I got the book for $1. And it was his prequel to that book. So Be Here Now, he wrote back in the 70s, I think. And it was about being just comfortable with who you are, accepting yourself, basically. Be here now. Be conscious right now. The book he wrote that I read, the first book that I ever read by him, he wrote for elderly people to accept death.
What was it called?
It's something like Be Here Now. Be Here Still. Be Here Still.
So it was like right after that book.
It was more 90s.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
and then he wrote a recent one called Be Love Now.
I haven't read that one. So I think
I have that, but it's been such a drag. No offense to Ram Dass.
Well, he's
just because he's super into gurus.
And
as much as I respect the guru, I want to get, I want to get straight to the source. I want to get straight to God.
I know what you mean. Yes. Have you read Tuesdays with Morrie?
No.
So you would really like that, by the way. But books about death really attract me, and books about death and psychedelics are very similar. But the Ram Dass one that I read, basically, I'm 20 years old, and I was reading a book about how to accept death. And it made my life so much better.
Because when you're born, you're going to die, and it's the same thing.
Right. But just me as like a normal dude, I'm a pretty normal dude. Like, that's why I feel bad preaching this kind of stuff. Because there's people like Ram Dass and other dudes that are much more equipped at explaining in eloquent and poignant terms.
Okay, but that's in the big picture. But in the little picture, you are affecting everyone in your circle.
Anybody listening to the podcast. But mostly, I get really like spiritual with my friends if they open that door. But if they don't, I just don't do that because
it's intrusive sometimes.
Spirituality is just like religion. You talk about it too much and people think you've gone nuts.
Yeah.
And so I just don't talk about it with people that aren't receptive of it.
I really don't either. And that's why, like I said on my Instagram, when I get too woohoo, like I almost regret it.
Me too.
Because
I
have
silly.
So many ranges of friends that believe different things, and people that I don't even talk to anymore that I used to be really close to, and all these things. And it's like, but at the same time, like, I guess, especially recently, I realized like, I'm just going to be real. And if I feel like posting me rock climbing today, and tomorrow I feel like posting a selfie, or tomorrow I feel like posting a yoga video, like I'm just gonna do whatever, because I don't want to fit into like this box of like, I don't know, like stereotypical in the box person. Like I even started I was thinking of starting a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was talking to my boyfriend. I'm like, I don't know what to post. Like, I do so many things all over the place. Like, I'm not consistent with something. He's like, just do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right.
Well,
you're right. You know, because like,
that's one of the reasons why I asked you to come on the podcast. You seemed very open with just doing whatever, showing every aspect of your life. And through doing this podcast, if you listen to every one of my podcasts, you're going to hear stuff that you liked, and you're going to hear stuff that you don't like. And you're going to think I'm really cool, and you're also going to think I'm an asshole at times. But you've got to be open and willing to just say how you feel. And I saw that you did that, and I really respected that. And I thank you so much for coming on.
And I thank you for letting me be here.
Of course. Well, this is the end. We've done it.
Woohoo. I was actually like, oh, what are we going to talk about? But it was
it's super relaxed. I don't force anybody to talk about anything that they don't want. But thanks for sharing this podcast with me this morning.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that just about does it for this episode of the Psychic Wave podcast. Thanks again to Sasha for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. You were a wonderful guest, one of my favorite podcasts that I've had. There's always a handful that are really good ones that I enjoy and that are kind of a cut above the rest. And this was one of my favorite ones. So thanks again, Sasha, for coming on. And thanks to Tess for taking amazing video and pictures. I really appreciate it. And if you want to follow the Psychic Wave, you can follow us on Instagram at the Psychic Wave. If you want to follow my personal account, you can follow me at Andrew Sanishyn. Sanishyn is spelled SanYSHYN. And some other information. What do you need? What do you people need in your ears right now? I think you should definitely check out Bundy, the podcast. That's another great podcast. My friend Nani runs it. And he's located in Long Beach, and he talks to some really great bands and is a really fun fucking person. So I think you just check it out. You won't regret it. He's really a good friend of mine, and I think he's doing something really great. So go check out Bundy the podcast. Anything else? Yeah, you should go to Alex's Bar in Long Beach to go see my buddies Iris play some music. They kill it every time, and I will be there as well, so you should be there. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for I can't speak. But anyway, thanks for listening. I love you.